Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel and to this episode of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report. For those of you who are new, my name is Jane. Thanks for joining. So this is a big week. We have the big nodal transition, which means the North Node, which is right here, is moving into Aries, and the South Node is moving into Libra. And this nodal transition is happening in aspect with the new moon, same day, the new moon in Cancer, which is opposite of Pluto. So we have kind of a lot of big influences this week. It might be emotional. You may feel some fluctuation here, especially because that new moon in Cancer, the moon is by far the strongest entity in the sky this week, or at least at the time of the new moon, because she's in rulership there. So Cancer, the fluctuations of the moon, we're really on that more lunar, plus we're dealing with the lunar nodes as well. So the lunar energy, the deep emotions, the deep intuition, the deep knowing, the connection that our intuition has with our physical bodies, it's really, really, really strong. So if it comes out emotionally, great. If it comes out with ambition, if it comes out with a work ethic, however it's going to come out, it's going to come out. Hopefully it's more productive, but either way, whatever it is you're feeling and feeling inspired to do, please honor that as much as you possibly can. Now let's talk a little bit about the nodes as they come in. So first of all, the South Node moving into Libra can represent, as if I can use like a generic word, a decrease. Now, decrease with the South Node, increase with the North Node. But let's be very clear. Let me be very clear. A decrease does not necessarily mean you're not giving attention to that area. In fact, actually a South Node can demand incredible attention and pull a ton of energy. The decrease really comes from what the South Node does is it teaches us a lot about material attachment or attachment to things in this world in general. And Libra being so closely associated with relationships, like for example, let's say you are in a really challenged relationship, South Node comes in, this might be a time where you say, I'm going to fight for this relationship. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. I'm going to give my all. I'm going to learn. I'm going to change. I'm going to grow. And hopefully your partner does the same too. But sometimes the best way to heal a relationship is actually found over with the North Node over in Aries, which is about focusing on yourself. Because the more and more you put into that South Node, I'm not saying you can't see any results, but even if you see results, I don't know that we get the fulfillment that we like, or we don't get the sense of accomplishment or the feeling like it was, a job well done with that South Node. We can just pour and pour and pour and pour into that South Node, and sometimes it just doesn't ever really pay off. At least not in the way that we would like or in the way that we would think. If you're in a healthy relationship, I'm not saying all relationships are doomed by any stretch of the imagination, but it is important for us to understand with this axis that relationships, Libra, are founded on the basis of an individual. And that's what the North Node in Aries is coming in to help us with. Now, we've had a lot of Aries energy, and there's been a lot of focus on our self-concept and our sense of identity really since 2018 when Chiron came into Aries. A lot of us have been working on ourselves. We've been working on this question of like, who are we? Who do we want to be? And maybe there's been some fluctuations with that. Maybe we lock in, but then we don't really lock in, and then we switch later on. We can go through many, many iterations of self when Chiron is in Aries, trying to land in on something that's concrete and solid. Now, the North Node can create some volatility. It's a very volatile entity. And I'm not saying it's coming into a conjunction this week with Chiron, because it's not. It's still pretty far away, and Chiron is preparing to retrograde anyway. So there's still going to be some distance between the North Node and Chiron for a long time. But we do need to keep in the back of our minds that as an entity, the North Node of increase comes in the same sign and comes in closer and closer in degree with Chiron, that it's going to increase the Chiron energy in our lives. Now, this can be good because it can heal the issues and the problems and the wounds and traumas around our identities, but it can also be bad if we really have no clue who we are. And I say bad because the North Node is going to make us try to grasp onto something. It's going to want us to attach, because that's what the North Node is. It's a very greedy kind of place. Okay, this is the head of the dragon. So it's associated with the senses. That's why a lot of people say it's really strong in Taurus. But it's associated with senses. It's associated with having and the more materialistic aspect of life, where the South Node can be really spiritual because it's about detaching from a lot of those things. So the North Node is going to want to try to grab onto and solidify some kind of an identity. Now, there's good and bad to that, because on one hand, that can be really fantastic for your goals and your ambitions. It can be really good for balancing out a partnership, right? Because if you have two people who really know who they are, that relationship has a better likelihood of succeeding. Communication can be better, empathy can be better, support, emotional intelligence can be better, right? If you know who you are, they know who they are, it comes together a little bit better sometimes. But there's also that line where you can kind of cross, where it becomes an overexertion of who you are, right? And it becomes almost narcissistic at that point. I'm not saying we're all going to be crossing that line. It's just we need to be aware, and we're probably going to see that a lot around with a lot of other people. And to be compassionate for that, and compassionate for what they're going through as they're trying to truly discover their truest self. Because the North Node can bring confusion around like what something is. Now, I often look at the North Node as being a combination of like Saturn and Neptune, which are two planets that have such different modalities, right? Saturn is about structure and reality. It's about the physical world. And then Neptune is delusional. It's dreamy, it's fantastical, and it can get lost in its own, like in the box of its own creation up here in its mind. And when we try to put those two things together, they don't really mesh very well. And I'll use an example for this, okay? A lot of the millennial generation, and I'm saying this because a lot of you are millennials, have Neptune in Capricorn. And we are the generation where they talk about, they're so entitled, right? They're so entitled. And one of the reasons, I think, is because we grew up with, overnight millionaires all the time. We saw like Mark Zuckerberg, we saw all the tech companies that like within 1 or 2 years were being valued at like over 100 million or more, up to $1 billion or whatever it was in Silicon Valley. And we were seeing people rise to fame so quickly, like, Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and all them in the early 2000s, right? Like we saw these things happening all the time. So there was this kind of mix up of what we thought it would take to become successful, because it was shown, look at how easy it was for them. But then the hard work component of Capricorn or Saturn was somewhat missing or something, right? Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is that's kind of how that North Node operates. It kind of has that, you know what you want and you kind of know what it takes, but there's a delusion around it. There's confusion and fuzziness and there's, deception around it. It's not real, so that's when it comes into the identity and we say, this is who I am. It can be hard to keep that going or hard to sustain it. So this is one of the reasons why our spirituality is so important, because it kind of supersedes a lot of the superficial things. A lot of people are going to lock into, this is the type of car that I drive, and therefore this is the type of person that I am. There's nothing wrong with that But if it's not like a real representation of the completeness of who you are, and you've narrowed yourself into something, it can be detrimental to your growth, and it can also be detrimental to your relationships because you're not really experiencing the wide breadth of who you truly are. So just something to think about. Now, also at the time of this transition into Aries and Libra, we have a big grand cross happening, which is the nodes in aspect with the moon, which are also in aspect with Pluto. Okay, now the Pluto thing I've been talking about for weeks and weeks. I'm not going to dwell on it. We know how transformative it is. We know how important this ingress into Aquarius is as it goes back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius a couple of different times between 2023 and 2024. And this fluctuation back and forth, what it's doing is it's helping us to pace ourselves into our future. Because I think if we didn't have this back and forth like this, and we just slammed into Aquarius and we just were like pedal to the metal all into the Aquarian stuff, there would be a lot of karmic loose ends left. And we wouldn't have we wouldn't be resonating fully at where we are wanting to go, which can create chaos in Aquarius. It can just kind of build and build and build with not a lot of sense of control. And we want sustainability in our lives. We want the things that we want to work out and to last, right? No one out there is asking for, oh, I want the love of my life to come in, but then I only want it to last a couple of years. Like, no one is saying that, right? We want it to really work. And we don't want to just like build this great career only for it to come tumbling down 2 years later. So Pluto coming back into Capricorn is really assisting with the readiness of everything. And I cannot tell you, you guys, every single private reading that I have had, people just feel ready, right? You feel ready for the next thing. You feel ready for the next chapter of your lives. And people are getting antsy and they're getting anxious. And I think people are like, get me out of this Capricorn nightmare already. Please, let's just get into Aquarius. But it's like the wisdom of Capricorn, where you have that master telling you like, it's like, well, you'll be ready when you finally take it. Like, you'll know you're ready when you don't need me anymore. You know you're ready when you're ready to take it, and you do, and you go and you do it. But the fact that there's still some resistance and we're still in that place of saying we're ready, right? Because saying we're ready and actually going out there and proving that we're ready are two completely different things. So Pluto coming back and forth here is giving us plenty of opportunity to like get in that mindset and get in that proper place to actually go do it. All right. And so the moon here, the moon and the sun down here with the new moon, I love this new moon. We always love moons in Cancer because when the moon is strong, we can feel truly connected with what our deepest, purest heart space self is saying and wanting. And there's not a lot of confusion when we have kind of a situation going on like this. It's probably pretty clear that you know what you want. Now, you may not know the specifics, but you know what you want. And I think people are starting to feel, if you're not aligned with something that feels right or something that you truly value, this is probably going to be the time where you say, yeah, I'm really not aligned. I'm not aligned and I don't like being not aligned. And I feel, ready to make that change. And here we have Mars in aspect with Saturn, one of my absolute favorite aspects of Mars and Saturn, my favorite, because this brings the doing quality. And whatever it is you do over the next couple of months, just keep in mind that that's you declaring through your actions. This is you communicating with the universe through your actions. It says, yes, I'm ready. I don't need a master, my higher self, to tell me when I'm ready right now, because I'm telling you I'm ready. I'm telling the universe I'm ready. What you do right now, it has a resonance to it. And so you want to make sure you're doing the best things. This is not a time, right? Mercury in Leo as well. This is not a time for us to be like binging shows on Netflix. It's not. It's not a time for us. I mean, you can relax, but you can do that, but I wouldn't be wasting your life doing it, is what I'm saying. If you have things you want to get done, get up and go do them and get them done, unless you have like a real excuse, like a health excuse or something as to why you're not doing it. But, if you don't really have an excuse, don't let yourself have excuses. And one thing about Leo, now let's talk a little bit about the relationship between Leo and Capricorn. Now, we don't have Capricorn activity, don't get confused. I know sometimes I can be confusing. But Saturn and Mars, which are in aspect, are the two planets associated with Capricorn. Saturn is the ruler, Mars is the exalted planet, okay? So I'm going to talk about Capricorn, but what I mean is Saturn and Mars, Capricorn and Leo, okay? Now, these two archetypes, I think we give all the credit normally to Capricorn, but I like to pull some of that credit and bring it into Leo in terms of being truly responsible and concerned about legacy and what is left behind. And these are the two zodiac signs very concerned about their responsibility to the future. And we can like look at the, Saturn CEO, president, there's usually some leadership quality here with Capricorn. And then we have, the kings and queens through Leo, the royalty here, which truly are responsible for the prosperity of their kingdoms, quote unquote. And I think right now, thinking about the prosperity of our kingdom, prosperity of our family, of our lives, of our extended family, of our companies, of our clients, right? Thinking about what it is that we are, what's trailing behind us, what is trailing behind the actions and the choices that we take and make, that can be highly advantageous for you right now. That's one of the burdens, I think, of being a Leo that people just don't talk enough about. Leo can be an exceptionally heavy-weighted zodiac sign, and Leos can feel an extraordinary amount of pressure on their shoulders. They just stand up, right? Leos can just stand up, like a Capricorn can just stand up. They're usually the ones that say, I got to go take care of my family. I got to go be the one. I got to go be the breadwinner. I got to be the one that's got to figure it out. I got to make it happen. And there's a lot of that right now because of all the Leo and because of the Mars-Saturn connection going on. Okay, but Mars in Virgo is about the busy work, but the good busy work, the busy work that actually leads to something. Okay, Virgo is very much about doing the things that you really don't want to do for the sake of ensuring the success of the thing that you really want. Okay, this is all the messy stuff, all of the, it feels great when you're done, but when you're doing it, it's kind of like, ugh, this sucks. I don't want to clean out my closet. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to have to send that email. I don't want to have that conversation, but Virgo's like, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. So hopefully you can feel that this week. You can feel that sense of responsibility that if you want this, you have to find a way to make it happen. And Pluto in Capricorn says you have to say goodbye to the past. Say goodbye to the way it was done. Say goodbye to the rule book. Say goodbye to the narratives. We're in this position where we get to completely rewrite the story of who we are. And that has the potential to help and aid the way we relate to people and build better and stronger relationships, which ultimately can circle all the way back and help us build a better life. So the astrology between now and over the next few months is very much going to be like this. So we have to capitalize on it. I mean, well, we don't have to. You can do whatever you want, but I would say, why not? Why not capitalize on it? Why not allow the pressure of the astrology right now push you forward into something that you want? Okay? Plus, don't forget, we have this Venus retrograde, and I forget to, I don't put a lot of the asteroids and things. Yeah. Here's Lilith right here, Black Moon Lilith. Okay, so I don't really put her up on here very often, but we can see how she is involved in this Venus retrograde. It's kind of interesting because I often see Black Moon Lilith as being the dark side of both Moon and Venus. She has her absolute dark, deep, scorned, betrayed, revengeful, sour qualities here, and mixed with Venus. You know, like this is some real raw stuff. It is going to be impossible for us to escape the truest aspects of us during this time. Absolutely impossible. So this is also brewing, and we're going to talk more about this next week when she finally does retrograde on the 22nd, which is the exact same day that the sun comes into Leo as well. So there is a lot to talk about next week too, but this was the big week in July. Okay? All right. You guys know I love you. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.